The ability to make an effective technical presentation is a very crucial skill for the success, either as an undergraduate or as a well-seasoned professional. In this video lecture, let us learn how to make an effective technical presentation by fine-tuning the three key elements of a technical talk: framing the talk, preparing the talk, and delivering the talk. Also, I'll give you some practical tips to control your nervousness for you to stay confident in your delivery. Before commencing the lecture, we need to dispel two very prevailing misconceptions regarding presentation skills. Misconception number one: good presenters are born, they are not made. That's completely wrong. It is a fact that some people naturally find it comfortable speaking in front of an audience, while some other people experience some kind of fear or discomfort doing so. But if you spend right amount of time and right amount of effort, you can be a very successful technical presenter or even a public speaker. Misconception number two is that if you are really good in language, or if you are comfortable, or if you are very fluent in a language, that means you are a good public speaker. That is also wrong. That is actually the other side of the coin. If that argument is correct, that implies every person born unmuted to the world is a very good technical presenter or very good public speaker, because all of them are good in their native language. But we know that is factually incorrect. Therefore, even if you are really good in your language, it doesn't mean that you are a good public speaker, good technical presenter. Technical presentation itself is a skill that you must master. Whenever you are supposed to do a technical presentation, the first thing that you must do is framing your technical talk. Framing is all about identifying the content to match with the context of the presentation. There are various contexts that we do technical presentations. For example, if you are going to start a research project, you are presenting your research proposal with the aim of getting the approval of the panel to proceed with the research. Or else, you might be presenting the progress of your work. It could be research progress, or it could be any progress of any other work that you have done. Or else, you might be disseminating the knowledge that you created through your research. Or it could be something like you are making a presentation in an interview to professionally market yourself. That is the context of the presentation. And you have to select the content to match with the context of the presentation. That is the framing. In whatever the context you are making the presentation, there must be a purpose, or there must be an aim for the presentation. You must first understand what is the aim of your presentation, because that is very important, because your aim will determine the direction of your talk, how your talk will flow, and what type of information that you are going to share in your technical talk. So identifying aim is a very important thing. There could be different aims. For example, you want to inspire an audience, or you want to persuade an audience, or it could be you want to inform the audience maybe about the progress of your work, or it could be you want to convince the audience that you are a worthwhile person to be hired, for example in case of an interview, or it could be anything else depending on the context. The first thing is you must clearly understand what is the purpose or the aim of your presentation. What is your expected outcome? What you want your audience to do by end of your presentation. Once the aim or the purpose is fully determined and well established, the next task you have to do is identify set of objectives for your talk. By achieving each of these objectives, you are seamlessly achieving the purpose of your technical talk. Objectives are basically what you want your audience to do after completing your talk. That is basically your expectations. Therefore, you can simply write down these expectations. For example, by end of this technical presentation, the audience will then write down your expectation 1. Then expectation 2, expectation 3, or maybe 4 or 5. Do not write down huge list of expectation. Limit your expectations to maybe 3 or 5 expectations. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you are making a technical presentation as your research proposal presentation. Your expectation is to get the approval for your research for you to proceed with your research activities. Therefore, your aim or the purpose is to persuade the audience. Now the purpose is to persuade. Let's see how can we persuade the audience. That is by setting your objectives. Since it is a research proposal, it is very important for you to establish your research gap. Therefore, your first objective could be, by end of my presentation, the audience will possess a comprehensive understanding of the research problem and the scientific gap at hand. So you are convincing, you are persuading audience, you are addressing a worthwhile scientific and research gap. That is your first objective. After you persuading there exists an important research gap, next thing is you need to persuade the audience through your work you are going to make an impact for the research community and to the world in more generic way. Therefore, your second objective could be, by end of my presentation, the audience will be thoroughly convinced about the significant potential impact that my research outcomes can bring about. That is the place where you can present your aim and objectives of your research. That will convince the audience, that will persuade the audience how important your work is. But that is also not sufficient to fully persuade the audience to get the approval for your research. There's an important element missing here. That is, you need to project them that you have a very strong methodology. Therefore, your third objective could be, by end of my presentation, the audience will be convincingly persuaded by the scientific rigor and the soundness of my methodology. So you first identify your purpose. You want to persuade the audience, and then you first establish the research gap. Then you projected them the importance or the significance of the research and also its outcome. And then you convince the audience that you are having a scientific, well-sound scientific research methodology to tackle the problem. That is also not the end of the objective, because this is a learning exercise. You need to get some valuable constructive feedback from your panel of experts to refine your research directions. Therefore, the final objective could be, by end of my presentation, the audience will provide me with valuable constructive criticisms to further refine and enhance my research. So these are the objectives of your technical presentation. Based on these objectives, now you have to identify what material you are going to present in your technical talk. You can go through your aim and objectives as many times as you want until you are really confident about it. Make any changes, improvement, just about do anything, and finally come up with a very concrete aim and list of objectives. Once that concrete aim and the objectives are set, do not derail from it, because that will jeopardize the flow of your technical talk. With that concrete aim and objectives, the next task is identifying the content to deliver these objectives and the aim. Selection of the content is a very critical task. Often it is quite a misleading task, because when we have a wealth of information, wealth of content, we try to fit them all in our presentation. That is a wrong exercise, because a technical presentation is not a place for you to showcase the wealth of knowledge you have. It's an exercise to reach the purpose or the aim through your identified objectives. When you are selecting the content, you have to think about various things. Number one, think about the audience. The composition audience, who will be the potential people in your audience. It's a very important thing, because Based on the audience, you have to decide on your tone, your language, the type of information and the examples that you are bringing into your talk to enrich your message. For example, if you are talking to a panel of experts, telling some basic things will be ineffective. On the other hand, if your audience is quite novice in your topic, telling complex things with complex technical jargons will make the audience difficult to catch up your pace. In both cases, you will lose the attention of the audience, and that is detrimental in achieving your purpose. Therefore, have a clear understanding. As much as possible, study what would be the potential audience for your technical talk. It is not possible for us to have a complete understanding, but make some knowledgeable guesses about the audience, the composition of the audience. The other important thing in selecting the content is the duration of your presentation. If your time frame is very small, you cannot fill a large volume of information into that tiny space. So duration of the presentation is also very important. The other important aspect is the pace of the delivery, how fast you speak. Imagine that you are making a presentation for 15 minutes duration, and there are 3 group members in your group. Each of you are getting 5 minutes. And there's one person who is speaking so fast while your natural pace is relatively slow. Do not try to catch up the pace of the fast speaker. You will be in a real trouble. Keep up with your natural pace. Then again, you have another constraint. You cannot present the same volume of information as the fast speaker is presenting. That is perfectly fine. Here, it's not the volume of information matters, but the value you are bringing into your message is the most important thing. Say, for example, the fastest speaker might be talking about 5 points while you might be talking about 3 points. It is completely material. As long as you can bring a value for your talk, number of points, the volume of information that you are bringing into the talk is immaterial. Therefore, please pay attention to these 3 elements. The composition of the audience, duration of your presentation, and also your pace of delivery. These 3 are very important in determining the content for your presentation and also the volume of information or the evidence that you are going to present in your technical talk. Once you have completed setting your aim, objectives, and determining the content for your presentation, the framing part completes. The next task is preparing your technical talk. Preparing the talk has 2 aspects. Number 1 is structuring your talk. The other one is making your presentation slides. You can use whatever the slide making software, but you have to make very effective slides. Both are very important. Structure of the talk is also very important, and the supporting slides, that is also a very important aspect in your preparation. In structuring your talks, you have to pay attention to 3 key elements: opening of your talk, body of your talk, and then the conclusion. All 3 elements are equally important for the success of your technical talk. Starting of a technical talk is very much similar to starting of a race. Unless you get the correct start, you will not be able to have the correct completion and winning the race. Same thing applies to technical talk as well. Unless you start correctly, you will not be able to achieve your intended purpose or the aim of the presentation. Because typically a technical presentation you are getting only about 15 to 20 minutes or even less. Therefore, if you miss the beginning, chances are very rare there will be a chance for you to re-enter to your talk. Therefore, first 10 to 20 seconds are extremely critical. You have to make the first impression solid and very strong. If you do not make the first impression a lasting one in a technical presentation, chances are high that you will miss the audience throughout your presentation. Therefore, you have to pay a special attention to the beginning of the presentation. What I suggest you is write down your starting sentence. Refine it, make it perfect, and once you are satisfied with your starting sentence, memorize that one. Do not change your starting sentence just before the presentation unless you are very confident. Of course, once you gain technical presentation skills, once you have gained a lot of experience in delivering technical talks, you can change your starting sentence. You can link that to the previous presenter's presentation or the content. Likewise, you can adjust your starting sentence once you gain experience. But until you become an experienced technical presenter, don't try to change the starting sentence. Remember the starting sentence and use that sentence to start your technical presentation. And that starting sentence must not be reading out your title, because your audience themselves can read the title. You can tell the title, or you can start your presentation with a sentence which is appealing to the audience. Think about the situation and develop a satisfactory, successful starting sentence. You can consult experienced persons and your colleagues and get the feedback and develop that starting sentence. And do not use abbreviations in your starting sentence. For example, when you are telling what you are going to do in your project, if the project title or the concept has some abbreviations, do not use those abbreviations unless those abbreviations are well known to the audience. Because if you are telling something that is not familiar with the audience, it's a likely chance that you are going to miss the attention of the audience. Therefore, you have to pay very high attention to the beginning or the starting of your technical talk. And then you have to move into the body seamlessly. When it comes to the body of your talk, you must remember one thing, very important thing. That is, it is not the responsibility of the audience to keep their attention to your talk. It is your responsibility to capture the attention of the audience and keep their interest throughout the entire duration of your talk. Doing that one is not that easy, because technical presentations, unlike in other talks, there are no emotions. When there are no emotions, your talks will almost like a very monotonous talk. Retaining the attention of an audience in a monotonous content is a very challenging task. But anyway, we have to do that one, otherwise we will not succeed in our technical presentation. The simple tip to do that one is tell them a story. No matter whether your talk has emotions or not, you can tell a story. With your very monotonous content, your technical presentation, still you can tell them a story. Secret is you have to arrange your talk from point to point. Let your talk flow from one point to another in a smooth manner rather than moving back and forth. That smooth delivery is a secret for you to capture the attention of the audience. And also you can enrich your content with examples which are relevant to the audience, because you have to pitch your talk relevant to the audience. Relate your experience with the audience experience. That's why a knowledge about the audience is very important when you are framing your talk. You can bring about information, bring about examples which are quite appealing to the audience as well. If you bring something alien to the audience will find it difficult to keep in touch with the pace of your delivery. Always pitch your talk to match with the wavelength of your audience. There's another tip that I can share with you to fill the information or arrange the information in the body of your talk. When you are making your presentation, no matter how well you have practiced, there may be a chance that you will run out of the time. Therefore, at the latter part of your talk, you may happen to rush through your presentation. If such a thing happens, and if your most important informations are delivered towards the latter part of your presentation, then you will be rushing through the most important points. To avoid that one, I suggest you to bring the most important information first. Most important information, and then the next one, and then finally the least important information you are presenting. If you could arrange your talk in that way, even if you happen to rush through the latter part of your talk, you are not missing much of the value that you plan to deliver in your technical talk, because you have already presented, taking enough time, the most important and the most critical factors or the facts to the audience. So please consider that arrangement if possible in your technical talk. Conclusion is the third segment of the structure of your talk, and the conclusion is a very important thing, so as the opening as well as the body. No matter what valuable information you shared with your audience during the body of your talk, we have to realistically understand that audience cannot remember all these points. Audience will easily forget most of the information that you shared with them. Conclusion is the point, maybe the last 1 minute or two is a place where you have to implant the message that you really want to implant on the heads of the audience. Therefore, you have to summarize your key points here. Remember the key points. The points that you want your audience to take home must be re-emphasized in the conclusion section. Also, if your presentation is expecting to call for some actions, then this is the place for you to call for actions. Remember to make a lasting impression in the conclusion, because conclusion is the place where you make the last impression with the audience. Therefore, make sure you implant a very strong message on the heads of the audience to make sure that you are achieving the purpose of your technical talk. Once the structure of your talk is finalized, that is the opening and also the content of the body and the conclusion, the next task is making your presentation slides or the visual aids. When you are making presentation slides, there are a few important things that you must remember. Number one, your presentation slides are visual aids and you are the presenter. Never ever let the audience to focus on your presentation slides without your invitation. Throughout the entire talk, you must be able to retain the attention within you. Whenever you want audience to look at the presentation slides, you must have the control. You must have the control to drive their attention to the presentation slides, and when that point is over, you should be able to capture their attention again to you. That's a very important thing when you are using presentation slides. And to do that one, you have to very carefully design your presentation slides. One of the biggest mistake people are doing is considering presentation slides as lecture notes. They put whole lot of text in the presentation slide. Then what happens? Audience come into a dilemma whether to look at the presentation slides or whether to look at the presenter. Therefore, don't do that. Don't treat your presentation slides as a lecture note. It is not. Another mistake people are doing is making their slides a fancy set of visuals. Don't do that one. People put so many different colors, so many animations, putting just about many things. They are making their slides so fancy. Don't do that in a technical presentation. Although the presentation making software has provided many animation options for you, make sure you are using minimum amount of animations, because too much of animations and too much of contrasting colors is a visual distraction for the audience. If you create that visual distraction, you are losing the attention of the audience. Audience attention is very, very important, and that is a crucial factor for your success of the presentation and for you to achieve the intended aim or the purpose of your presentation. Always keep that in your mind when you are making presentation slides. It is essential we have to put some text as bullet points in our presentation slides. Make sure those texts are readable from the background of your presentation room. If you are putting too small fonts, people will be finding it very difficult to read your content. When you are using colors, don't use contrasting colors. Especially be very careful when you are using the color red, because color red is a attention grabbing color. Unless you really want to drive the audience attention for a particular segment of your presentation slide, don't use red color. Use other colors. Also try to use images and graphs in place of text, because a picture can tell 1,000 words. So use images and graphs instead of text whenever possible. Let's take this example. On this slide, we are going to talk about the advantages of fuel cell technology. Here you can see there are 4 bullet points. The first bullet point, it says low environmental pollution, and it is printed in red. The second one, silent operation. Third one, effective use of alternative energies, and the fourth one is distributed power generation. Those are the 4 points that we want to present to the audience as the advantages of fuel cell technology. Now here look at the colors. There are 4 different colors being used. That is not good. Especially you have used color red for the first point, where I don't need to really emphasize that point, because first point is having equal weight as rest of the points. So using the red color here is driving the attention of the audience to that point unnecessarily. So don't use the red color unwantedly. Other problem here, font size is different. All the points are at the same level, but they are in different font size. That is not a good example. Now this one is a slightly improved version. Here the contrasting colors and also especially the red color has been removed, and also the difference is in font size. In the same levels of points is also eliminated. Now all points are having the same font size. So this is somewhat better version than the previous one. But still you can see the 2 different levels of the points are having the same font size. That is not quite appropriate in this case. And also here it's just a textual presentation. Audience might read out these points. I'm not saying this is bad. Technical presentations, you have to present point, that is perfectly fine, but you can improve this slightly better. Here the same points are presented in a slightly different way. Instead of listing them as bullet points, here those are represented in a graphical way. To me, this is much better than listing the points in bullet points. But the opinion may be different for you, and it may be different for somebody else as well. So the best thing is present your slides to a third person and get their feedback to see whether your slides are appealing to an audience. In whatever the way you are making your slide, make sure that you are not putting too much of text, and you are not putting your audience in a strain, and you are not putting your audience in a dilemma whether to focus on your slides or whether to focus on you. Always you must retain the attention of the audience, and you should not let your presentation slides to steal the attention from your audience. That is the simple aspect that you must really respect when you are making a presentation slides. Once the structure of your talk is finalized and the supporting visual aids are completed, the next thing is writing the script. Writing the script is very important. It's not only the opening sentence. Of course, opening sentence may be the only thing that you are going to memorize, but still you have to write the script for the body of your talk. Even a very experienced, prominent public speakers, they write their script, because script is so important. Especially when it comes to a technical presentation, it is not an impromptu speech. Audience is expecting you to have high level of preparation. You can do that preparation only through writing the script. When you are writing the script, you have to write down the points that you are going to present, and also you can include whatever the poses that you are having in your presentation when you are moving from one point to another, and also any vocal varieties that you are adding if it is possible. Everything must be included in your script. and you have to polish your script as many times as possible until you are fully satisfied. And practice your talk following the script that you have developed. But don't try to memorize the speech. Delivering a technical talk is not just telling something out of the memory, but your script is there to guide you, to set you the basic framework for your delivery. Therefore, whenever you are making a technical presentation, make sure you write the script. That's a very important strategy for a successful technical presentation. The last pillar of a successful technical presentation is delivery. We already completed the framing part as well as preparing part. In the delivery part, we have to focus on how can we capture the attention of the audience and present our points in an effective way during the real delivery of our technical talk. The very common reason that people are scared of the delivery is the nervousness, or we call it the stage fear. It's very natural, it's not a strange thing, it's not something that you or I experience. Just about everyone experiences the nervousness, because it's a full body hormonal reaction, which is a very natural reaction that every single human being experiences. Therefore, not only you, your audience also have experienced nervousness. Therefore, there's something common between you and the audience. That is also a good point to control the nervousness. Why are we getting this stage fear? Why we feel this nervousness? It is because we are scared of failing. We are scared of being misjudged. We are scared of being spotlighted in an audience, because when you are making a presentation, everyone's attention is on you. If you are scared of that one, you feel quite nervous. And also you are scared of making mistakes. And you might think, okay, I'll make a mistake. Of course, mistakes are quite natural. If you go and talk to any speaker who has never done a mistake, that person probably may not have done any speech. Whatever the level of your experience, everyone makes mistakes in presentations. But the important point is, audience would not capture those mistakes, although the presenter thinks the person has made a mistake. You can go and talk to a person, just say, hey, you did a wonderful presentation. The presenter might say, no, I did a terrible mistake during my presentation. But that is known only to the presenter, because you are comparing your real performance with your practice or pre-planned performance. If your delivery performance is weaker than your pre-planned performance, according to your yardstick, you might be thinking that you have delivered the presentation a slightly weak way, or you have done a mistake. But audience have no idea how you have done your presentation before. Therefore, most of the mistakes that we think that we are doing are not really noticeable to the audience. Therefore, don't worry about the mistakes. Everybody is making mistakes. Another important strategy to overcome the stage fear is getting familiar with the content that you are going to present. Because if you have lack of understanding or limited understanding of the material that you are presenting to the audience, then you will feel nervous. Therefore, you have to do your homework well. If you are presenting, for example, a literature review presentation, you must have done your literature survey and literature review thorough enough for your research. Once you are well familiar with the content, then it will add you a confidence. That's a very good strategy to control your nervousness. And practicing your talk is also very important. If you are lack of practice, you have lack of confidence. The more you have practice, the more confidence you are having and less nervousness that you are experiencing. Therefore, practice as much as possible. Practice makes it perfect. You can practice it yourself first and see whether your presentation, your content is delivered correctly. You can practice in front of a mirror. Once you are confident, present your talk to some of your colleagues, close colleagues who can give you constructive criticism, constructive feedback, not destructive feedbacks. So once you have fully practiced your presentation, you are in a very confident mode. then your nervousness will go down. Also, don't think your audience as a group of hostile people who are waiting to fail you. No, they are waiting to see your success. And also remember, in your technical presentation, you are sharing some new knowledge with the people. So you are help them to learn, you are help them to improve themselves. No matter whether your audience comprises of very experienced people in the field, still if you have done your background study correctly, you can bring new value to them. So you are helping the audience to learn something new and enhance their knowledge domain. Keep that in your mind. Therefore, that will also help you to boost up your confidence and reduce your stage fear. Also, there are some tips to control the nervousness. Different people use different strategies. I can share with you my experience and also the techniques that I am using. One of the techniques that I am using is arriving the place early. Once I go to the presentation room early, I can be familiar with the environment. If there are a few people in the audience, I can go and talk to them. Just say, shake the hand and say hello, introduce yourself, and then you can make some connection. Then the audience will not be completely strange. There are people who are already known to you. There are people whom you have already built some network, built some connections. So you are presenting to an audience that you are a little bit familiar with. That's a strategy that is working for me, but it may not be working for you as well. Because in certain cases, I have heard some people suggest, arrive the place right on the time. Therefore, you will not be influenced by what other people are telling. That is also a strategy, if that is working for you, but certainly it is not working for me. So identify what action will help you to reduce the stress or reduce the nervousness and practice that one. And also imagine successfully delivering your speech before you are really delivering the speech. So if you imagine that one, it will give some signals to your brain and it will help your brain to control the nervousness. You will feel less nervousness and you will feel a bit of a confidence when you are making the presentation. If you just tell you that you are going to fail, your brain will drive you in that direction. Therefore, remember, you are telling your brain that you are going to succeed in this presentation. Right at the moment when your name is called to come in front of the audience or come to the podium, you have to walk slowly and firmly. Slowly means it's not too slowly, but you are not rushing to the podium. You keep every step consciously and keeping very firm steps. And also keep yourself straight rather than bending forward or bending to the side. Keep your body straight. That will give you a confidence. And until you start your presentation, don't look at the audience. That's a strategy that I am using. So first of all, once you go into the podium, you have to adjust your microphones and see whether everything is working. Once everything is confirmed to be working, and once you are really ready to make the presentation, then make a firm look at the audience. That is a very strong point to capture the attention of the audience as well as to build the confidence in your delivery. While you are walking to the podium, if you look at the audience, I feel like my look is diluted. So I'm not looking at the audience until I'm fully settled to start the presentation. Once I'm confident, everything is ready, sound is ready, my slides are ready, everything is ready, then I make a very purposeful, firm look at the audience. You have to look at the audience and start with a small, simple smile on your face and then greet the audience in whatever the appropriate way. For example, you can look at the audience and say, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," or "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen." And some people are making the mistake, they do not look at the audience. They think if they look at the audience, that will increase the stress. That's completely wrong. Sometimes you might have seen people, they look at the table or the podium and tell good morning. That's a distracting thing. Right? do not do that one. Never try that one. Always have a firm look at the audience for, let's say, 1 second or 1.5 seconds, and then greet the audience firmly and then start your talk. That is a way to build your confidence, and also that is a way to project your confidence. And always remember to have a smile, light smile on your face. Always project the sincerity to the audience, because whatever you are giving to the audience is what you are getting in return. So if you smile with the audience, if you project a smile, if you share some sincerity with the audience will do the same thing in return. Those are some very simple tips to control your nervousness. There are some things to avoid when you are making a technical presentation. Number one, don't show your back to the audience. Never show your back to the audience. Always keep looking at the audience. In case if your presentation slide is at your back and you are not provided with a screen, then you happen to look at the screen, just come to the side and look at the screen. Never turn back, never show your back to the audience. It is distracting. Also, if there's a podium, remember, podium is a device used to keep your lecture notes, whatever the notes that you're having, your electronic devices, etc. That is not a structure made to transform your weight. So don't hang on the podium. Don't keep holding the podium. Always stay a step behind the podium. My simple practice is I keep a gap about, let's say, 6 inches from the podium. So I can comfortably access the microphones, I can change their orientations to suit my height, and also I can access my notes if there are any, and also I can access my laptop or whatever the electronic device where I am playing my slides. Do not come very close to the podium and do not stay far away from the podium. 6 to 8 inches is my advice, but practice something quite comfortable for you. When you are making a talk, it's not only your words are communicating the message. There are very strong non-verbal communication tools. One of that is your body. Your body itself communicating a message. That is called body language. In the body language, you can use the movements of your body to communicate some message to the audience. For example, when you are moving from one point of your talk to another point, you can carefully move from one place to another place. It is not just you're talking while walking across the stage. That is wrong. That will project kind of a nervousness that you're experiencing. If you are moving your body, it should be very purposeful movement. But if you are not comfortable doing that, or if the environment restricts doing that, for example, if you are provided with a stationary microphone and a podium, then of course you cannot move across. In such a cases, it is perfectly fine you keep your body straight without moving anywhere. If you decide to keep your body straight, make sure you keep the body firmly and strongly straight rather than transferring your load from one leg to another leg. That is a sign of nervousness. Always keep your body straight and use your hand movements to the fullest extent as long as it is supported with the message that you are delivering to the audience. When you are using your hand movements, make sure you are not making quite a restricted movements like that. Keep your hands freely moving, and once you are not using your hands, it's better you keep your hands relaxed and straight position. Or you may be keeping your hands like this, that is also fine, but it would be always beneficial if you could keep your hand straight in a relaxed position. Another non-verbal communication tool is eye contact. Eye contact is extremely important. That is actually one of the strongest tools to maintain a rapport with the audience. Eye contact means it's eyeball to eyeball contact. It's not you are just randomly looking at the audience. You look at a person for a couple of seconds and you are purposely moving to another person and speak a couple of seconds by looking at that person. And that look is eyeball to eyeball contact. If you're having an audience of about maybe 10-15 people, it is quite easy for you to look at individuals. But if the audience is maybe 300, 400 or even larger audience, it is difficult to maintain this personal contact. In that case, what you can do is you can segment your audience and look at different clusters from time to time. And make sure you are spending a few seconds, not more than few seconds as well. You spend few seconds to look at the person, look at that cluster and keep on talking. That will give kind of a feeling to the audience that you're talking to them. That means they will feel they are part of the talk, they belong to the talk. And that supports you to keep the attention of the audience. If you keep looking at the fans or lights or walls when you're talking, audience will feel that you're not talking to the audience. That means audience will lose the interest and you're losing the attention of the audience. So eye contact, eyeball to eyeball contact is a very strong mechanism, very strong tool to keep engaged with the audience. And also you can use vocal variety. Of course, it is the change of the volume, change of the pitch, change of the tone, but most of these vocal varieties are associated with emotions. But in a technical presentation, there's hardly any emotions associated with. Therefore, what you can do is you can change the volume. And that should be a well-planned change of volume. And when you're making your script, you have to plan when you're changing the volume. When you're changing from low volume to higher volume. When you're moving from higher volume to low volume. That should be decided at the time of writing the script, because that's a part of the script. Another important nonverbal communication tool is facial expressions. You can express your happiness, your sadness, your anger, your excitement, all these things using facial expressions. But as you know, technical presentations do not have any emotions. Those are quite monotonous talks. Therefore, there's hardly any chance for you to use all the varieties of facial expressions. But remember, have a light smile on your face whenever you are speaking. Throughout your speak, have a light smile on your face. That will project a sincerity to the audience, and also that will help you to control your nervousness, to hide your nervousness. No matter how many butterflies are flying your stomach, as long as you have a smile on your face, audience will not recognize it. So keep that in your mind. Keep a light smile on your face throughout your entire speech. Gestures also play a vital role in communications, because gestures are a very vital non-verbal communication tools. But you have to be very careful when you are using gestures in different cultures, because different cultures perceive and interpret gestures in different ways. Therefore, if your audience comprises of multicultural and multi-ethnic people, be very careful using gestures. The last thing that I want to share with you is how to use silence. Silence is golden. But that silence is not you're getting stuck without ideas. It's a very thoughtful, well-planned pause you're giving between different segments of your talk. For example, after explaining a very complex thing, before you're moving into the next part of the talk, you can give 1 second or 1.5 second silence. That silence or that pause help you to distinguish different parts of the talk, and also that times give a time for the audience to digest the complex things that they have just learned. Therefore, use silence effectively and purposefully. You can use silence effectively only if you carefully draft your script, because when you are drafting your script, you can determine when to add silence and when not to add silence. All these techniques you can use to make your presentations very effective technical presentations that are delivering your purpose through streamlined achievement of the objectives of your technical talk. In this video lecture, we learn how to fine-tune the 3 pillars of a successful technical communication: framing the talk, preparing the talk, and finally delivering the talk. And also we discuss some common tips and strategies that we can use to overcome our nervousness. The nervousness that we all experience. And by controlling this nervousness, how can we make a successful technical presentation? I hope this lecture was helpful for you to improve your technical presentation skills. Thank you.